Saigon, July. It wasn't raining, but the air was thick with humidity, as if something was dissolving into the atmosphere that no one could quite name. Nam sat alone in a small cafe on the corner of Hoang Hoa Tham Street. The place was empty, save for the creaking sound of the ceiling fan. He had just finished his last delivery and was taking a moment to scroll through his phone before heading home. On the table, his phone rang. A strange number. The area code wasn't clear. Nam frowned, glanced around, then answered. Hello? On the other end, there was only breathing. Nam's brow furrowed. Hello? Who is this? Still, no response. But, after a few seconds, a woman's voice, soft, faint, came through. It didn't seem to be directed at anyone. More like a monologue. Don't leave me. Nam felt like he'd been electrocuted. He gripped the phone tightly. You've called the wrong number. But the caller hung up immediately. He looked back at the screen. No missed call, no call log, nothing. As if the call had never happened. That night, Nam couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in his modest rented room, with its damp walls and the buzzing fan by his ear. After a while, he sat up, poured himself some water, then picked up his phone to check the number again. Nothing, not saved, not recorded, only that sentence, still echoing in his mind. Don't leave me. Nam sighed. His hand instinctively reached for his left wrist, where a small crescent-shaped scar lay. A memory from when he was 14 suddenly flooded back, when his father was still alive. Working as a spirit summoner for families with misfortunes, Nam used to help his father ring bells, light incense, even mimic the cries of female spirits to enhance the rituals. He remembered clearly the fearful looks of the mothers, how they hugged each other and wept, begging, while his father would only sigh. Those who never made it into the world often don't realize they've died. The next morning, Nam decided to visit Tuan Pagoda, where Elder Nun Du Thong resided, the one who had once taught his father some karmic reversing sutras. He didn't really believe in spiritual stuff, but something in his head needed unraveling. The temple was quiet. The elder nun sat beside the incense altar, her face gentle and kind. Nam bowed low. Greetings, Elder. I'm Nam, son of Mr. Hao. She looked closely at him, then nodded softly. Ah, the little boy who used to ring the bell next to his father. All grown now, but your eyes still carry the same sadness. Nam sat down and recounted the strange phone call. After listening, the nun clasped her hands in contemplation. Not everyone who calls is human, and not everyone who hears is just by chance. Nam frowned. What do you mean, Elder? She opened her eyes and looked straight at him. You once spoke on behalf of those who were never named. You once acted as cries that were never heard. That karma doesn't just fade unless you realize it was real. Nam went quiet for a long time. In his mind, an image surfaced. The time his father performed a ritual for a mother who had lost her unborn child. That was the first time Nam heard wailing in the night, not from the living. He whispered, I thought it was just a cat crying in the alley. The nun closed her eyes and softly chanted. Some souls are not strong enough to show themselves, but strong enough to call someone who once touched them, even with just a word. That evening, Nam returned home and opened an old drawer. He found one of his father's old phones, long since dead. After a few minutes of charging, it powered on. Old voice messages appeared, all unnamed. One of them contained his father's voice, saying, Nam, if a call repeats 3 times, don't pick up anymore. By the 3rd time, you'll be pulled along. Nam stared at the screen. His heart pounded. Just then, his phone rang. Same unknown number. Nam stayed silent, then answered. No one spoke for the first few seconds. Then, a child's voice came through, clear yet chilling. Uncle, Mom didn't get a chance to give me a name. Nam was frozen. The screen went black, but in his palm, the phone began to heat up, like fire. The next morning, Nam returned to his family's old house, the one that had been locked up for 3 years since his father passed away. The house sat in a narrow alley in District 8. Moss-covered green walls, rusted lock. He twisted the lock. The door creaked open. Clouds of dust rose up. He turned on his flashlight, making his way to the wooden chest where his father used to keep client records. In one old notebook compartment, he saw the name. Nguyen Tu Tra, 26 years old. Miscarriage at 8 months. Ceremony performed on the 11th of November 2012. Nam muttered, "Tra, to Tra." Beside it was a small note from his father. Husband passed early. Fetus was unnamed. After the ceremony, she never returned to that house. Nam looked carefully at the address, 163 quarters Bin Dong, District 8. Not far from where he was standing. An hour later, Nam stood in front of a small house by the canal. The door was tightly locked. The neighbor next door, an old lady sweeping her yard, looked up at him. Nam bowed slightly. "Excuse me, is this the house where Ms. Tra used to live?" The old lady nodded. "Yeah, Tra, the woman who lost her baby. Right? That was a long time ago. She left this place, and I heard she passed away last year." Nam blinked. "Passed away?" The old lady nodded, still sweeping as she spoke. "Heard it was a stroke. Poor thing, lived alone. And every day she lit incense and talked to something. Like a baby." Nam froze. "Do you know where she used to burn incense?" The old lady pointed toward a small window on the side of the house. "Right there. There's a bowl of incense. One time I saw her write something on a piece of paper. Burn it, and cry." Nam looked over. The tiny window was covered in dust. But inside, the white incense bowl still sat exactly in place. That evening, Nam returned to his rented room. He placed a photo of his mother and father on the small altar. Then he sat down and wrote out everything he had learned. Tra lost her baby at 8 months. She never had a chance to give the baby a name. Later, she held a ceremony with his father. But that ceremony was fake, like many others. Tra never let go. Always lit incense and spoke to her child. He paused, muttering, "If a soul has no name, where does it go?" His phone vibrated. Unknown number. He hesitated for a few seconds, then picked up. This time, there was no breathing, no woman's voice, just a child's, very close, like standing right by his ear. "Uncle, if I had a name, would I have been born?" Nam trembled, but tried to stay calm. "Who are you?" "I don't know. Mom doesn't either. You once stood nearby, so I remember. You rang the bell. I heard it. I thought I was being called. But then, you left." Nam felt his eyes burn. The image of himself at age 14 appeared again, standing behind his father, faking the cries of a newborn to add intensity to the ritual. He whispered, "It was me, I was wrong." The voice grew fainter, as if fading. "I never had a name, so no one kept me." The phone went dead. Nam sat frozen. The screen still lit up, but there was no call log. No one knew. No one witnessed it. Only a faint shadow reflected on the glass window, like a small child sitting curled up in the corner. The next day, Nam returned to Tuan Pagoda. Elder Nun Du Thong was tidying the incense table. Seeing him, she simply said, "You've met it, haven't you?" Nam nodded, his lips dry. The child, never named, not just an ordinary lost soul, but a wandering womb spirit. The nun gently nodded. "You understand now." Nam sat down, his voice hoarse. "I want to perform the ritual. For real this time." She looked at him for a long moment, then pulled out a blank sheet of paper from her robe and placed it on the wooden table. "Before the ceremony, you must write a name on here, not to call it, but to take responsibility." Nam's hand trembled. He picked up the pen and wrote slowly, stroke by stroke, "Ha Van." He stared at the name for a long time. Tears rolled down before he realized it. The elder nun softly chanted, "A name won't bring a soul to life, but it may help one find peace in death." That afternoon, the courtyard of Tuan Pagoda was nearly empty. A light drizzle fell. The breeze rustled the wind chimes hanging along the veranda. They clinked softly, like sighs. Elder Nun Du Thong had prepared a small altar table in front of the main hall. No heavy incense, no glaring golden Buddha statues, just a piece of paper with the name, Ha Van. A glass of clear water, and a small bell Nam used to hold as a child. Nam stepped forward, wearing this simple gray robe. His face no longer held the curiosity or fear from the days before. Only silence remained. The elder handed him a stick of incense. "You don't need to pray or plead. Just call the child's name." With sincerity, Nam held the incense and knelt down. He looked at the paper bearing the baby's name, a name that had never been given. Never spoken while alive, never written on a birth certificate. but now, being called out with truth. He took a deep breath, then spoke. "Ha Van, if you can still hear me, please come home." Suddenly, the wind picked up. The incense in Nam's hand bent sharply, nearly breaking. The elder held the small bell tightly. "Steady your heart, Nam. What comes won't be the form of the child." Nam nodded. His hand trembled, but his eyes never left the paper. He repeated, "Ha Van, your name is Ha Van. No one will get it wrong again. No one will forget you anymore." The electric light on the porch flickered. A small laugh rang out, sounding like a little girl, but sharp and cold. "That's a pretty name, but I'm not the only one." Nam whipped around. Behind him, in the shadow of the columns, stood 3 small figures. One bowed its head, one had no face, one floated slightly above the ground, not touching it. The elder folded her hands, her gaze stern. "Nam, listen, they are not one, not just Ha Van, but all those you once called for fun. The demo spirits that you and your father created during fake ceremonies." Nam gasped, "But I didn't know they were real." The elder shook her head. "You didn't need to know. Calling them was already enough." Nam fell to his knees, clutching his head. Whispers echoed like winds from childhood. "Uncle, I'm the spirit from that mother back then. You said I died, so why are you calling me back now? We don't have form, but we have voices. We remember your bell. You gave a name to one. What about us?" Nam burst into tears. Grown man sobs, heavy and cracked, as if choking back something deep from his throat. He spoke through the sobs. "I'm sorry, for every name that never got to exist, for every baby called up the wrong way." He bowed, pressing his head to the ground. "Whatever you want me to do, just say it." Silence. Only the wind chimes continued to ring. After a moment, one of the small figures stepped forward. It was Ha Van, now with a clearer form. Her tiny hand was ice cold as it touched Nam's fingers. She whispered, "Don't cry, Uncle, because you're the first one who actually listened to us. We won't follow you, but we will go, with the sound of the bell." Nam looked on, seeing the small figures slowly fade into the wind. No screams, no clinging, only faint little voices merging like smoke. Someone finally called our names. After the ritual, Nam sat alone in the temple courtyard for a long time. The elder nun placed a hand on his shoulder. Her voice as soft as the earlier breeze. "They don't need to come to temples. Don't need to be worshipped. They just need to be called right. Once is enough." Nam nodded, eyes red. He said softly, "Then I need to go. Call them all again." Nam walked through the small cemetery at the end of Luang Vankin Street. He stopped in front of a nameless stone grave, etched only with, "My child, who never had the chance to be born." The grave belonged to Mrs. Hang, a single mother who once hired Nam and his father to perform a releasing ceremony 10 years ago. Back then, Nam was 14, holding the bell, ringing it in rhythm with his father's readings. The baby hasn't been named, so its soul wanders outside the bedroom window. Mrs. Hang sobbed hard. She gave an entire month's salary to release the spirit. Nam remembered and felt shame. He lit an incense stick at the grave, placed his hand on the cold stone. For the first time in his life, he spoke a name born entirely from his own heart. "If that day was real, then I'll call you Min Tam. Okay?" The wind swirled once around the grave. The incense glowed bright red. No crying, no figures, but Nam felt his chest lighter. He continued his journey. That day, he visited 4 houses, all places where ceremonies had once been held for unborn children. Some people had passed, some had moved away, but at each place, he spoke a name, called it with truth. That night, Nam sat in his dark rented room. The lights were off. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. Not a message, not a call, but a note auto-opened, showing a line that no one had typed. "There are still 23 more without names." Nam went cold. "I didn't do that many." Right then, there was a knock at the door. 3 knocks. Slow, dry. His hands shook as he reached for the door. The hallway outside the rented room was empty. Only a tiny stuffed bear, wet from the rain, lay right at the doorstep. Under the bear was a damp piece of paper. "I was never given a name, but Mom told me about you. You did the ritual. You rang the bell. You woke me up." Nam picked up the note. His hand was ice cold. He understood, this was no longer just his own fault. These were souls, created from the faith of others, built upon his own lies. The next morning, Nam went to an old print shop. He printed a stack of blank sheets, each one with a line at the top. Name of the child. Below it, in small print, if you don't have a name yet, let me name you. He walked through every small cemetery, every bridge corner, every place people often burned paper offerings for unborn children. He left the paper, a pen, a stick of incense. That afternoon, he returned to Tuan Pagoda, spreading the collected papers across the courtyard. The wind blew strong. Some papers were still blank. Some were filled in with scribbles like a child's handwriting. Some listed birth dates, death times, and one line trembling with ink. My name is Tuong Vy. My mom didn't call me, so I accidentally followed you. Nam knelt among the papers. He didn't cry, but his whole body trembled as if in fever. The elder nun came out of the temple and placed a hand on his shoulder. You're doing something the living can hardly do. Giving a name to something that technically never existed, but was still remembered. Nam stayed silent. A childlike voice echoed from somewhere, not one, but many. Uncle, do we really exist? Nam clenched his fists. He spoke slowly. If you remember, then you were real. The wind died down. The sheet of paper in front of him, completely blank, suddenly flipped over. On the back, a new line of red ink appeared. As long as you remember, we still exist. Nam sat in his rented room, surrounded by 46 sheets of paper, each name spoken aloud during the ceremony. Some names he created, some he picked up from the street, some were left at his window by someone unknown. The names: Ha Van, Min Tam, Bao Koi, Du Lin, Nha Win, and Vu. Nam mumbled each one, gently tracing the letters with his fingers. Some were real, some I made up, so which ones are left? Wind blew through the door crack, lifting a few sheets into the air. As he bent down to gather them, he noticed one unfamiliar sheet. Pale yellow paper, very neat handwriting. My name is Nyatin. I never lived, my mother never carried me, but I still know who I am. Nam felt a chill down his spine. He grabbed the paper and ran outside. The hallway was silent, the sky about to rain. He mumbled, Nyatin, who wrote this name? His phone vibrated. A message from an unnamed number. I am a dream, but someone believed, so I stayed. That night, Nam shared the story with Elder Nun Du Thong. She stayed silent for a long time, then asked, do you remember the first time you faked a baby's cry during a ritual? Nam nodded. Yes, it was for Ms. Tu, the woman who miscarried in 2011. The elder spoke slowly. She didn't have a child. She was delusional after her husband died. But because you and your father staged the ritual, she believed it. Nam froze. So, that child never existed? She was never pregnant? The elder nodded. Later, she developed mild psychosis, but she remembered that cry from the ritual very clearly, and began speaking to it every night. Nam took a step back, his back against the temple pillar. Could it be, I've given names to things that weren't meant to be named? The elder shook her head. There's no right or wrong. But there is a danger. If a name is spoken enough times, it becomes real, not in this world, but in the space between. Back in his room, Nam opened his notebook and went over the names. When he got to number 47, Nyatin, he stopped. He clearly remembered never thinking of that name, never meeting anyone with it. So who had written it? He grabbed his phone and typed in the search, Nyatin, stillborn. No relevant results, but on the search page, one old forum post from 2014 appeared. I often dream of a child calling me, Mom. I've never been pregnant, but the child kept saying one name, Nyatin. I started writing the name on paper, burning it on the full moon, though no one understands why. Nam finished reading, his skin crawling. He breathed heavily, looking again at all the names he had spoken. He suddenly realized, it's not only real spirits that find him, but even ideas born from faith, however distorted, are also following him back. That night, while sleeping, Nam dreamed. He stood in a white room, walls covered in mirrors. In front of him was a row of children, dressed in white, hair covering their faces. One stepped forward. Nam asked, "What's your name?" The child didn't answer, but in the mirrors, dozens of paper slips appeared, all bearing the same line. "My name is the lies you spoke, but I heard them as truth, so I remain." Nam woke with a start. his shirt soaked in sweat. The clock read 3:03 a.m. He turned, reaching for his phone, but a small child's hand was already placing it into his palm. He screamed. The lights snapped on. There was no one, but on the screen was a newly saved audio file. "My name is Nyat En. We're learning how to grow up. Uncle." For days, Nam didn't call out a single name. He gathered all the name papers and burned them. He stopped writing, stopped thinking, stopped remembering. He even turned off his phone, cutting off all contact. He temporarily moved back to his hometown, staying with his uncle, a retired security guard at an elementary school on summer break. The small, old house sat behind the school, surrounded by trees and a worn fence. An ideal place to find peace. The first night in the countryside. It rained lightly. Nam slept, for the first time in many sleepless nights. But around 3 a.m., he was woken by the sound of the gate clanking. He sat up and looked out the window. The gate was still shut. However, the courtyard hallway light flicked on by itself. Then, a child's voice echoed from the yard, very softly, as if learning to speak. "My name is Nha Ku." Nam froze. He turned on the light. Everything in the house was silent. No sound, but his palms were soaked with cold sweat. He whispered, "I didn't call. I didn't think about it. Why is it still coming?" The phone lit up, even though it had been powered off. A new note appeared on the screen. "You don't need to call anymore. We've learned how. You said we weren't real. But if we call each other by name, we'll become real." The next day, Nam went to the village temple, where a young monk resided. A former student of Elder Nun Du Thong. The monk listened to Nam's story, then asked, "Since you stopped calling, they still come?" Nam nodded. "Yes, and now, they're starting to know their own names." The monk furrowed his brow, thinking for a long while, then said quietly, "When someone believes a soul exists, their consciousness becomes the place where that soul dwells. But when that soul becomes self-aware of its name, no longer needing anyone to assign it, then it's no longer a wandering womb spirit." Nam was confused. Not a wandering womb spirit? Then what is it? The monk fell silent. It's a semi-formed spiritual entity. Between human and spirit. Doesn't need a mother. Doesn't need a body. Only needs a name. Nam stepped back. "You mean, I helped them become real?" The monk nodded slowly. "It wasn't just you. But you started it. And now they are finishing it on their own." Nam collapsed to his knees. Muttered, "All I wanted was to make amends." The monk gently replied, "To atone is not to keep calling. It is to accept that some names were never meant to exist. Some spirits are meant to be forgotten, to fade into nothingness." That night, Nam gathered his courage, sat in the middle of the elementary school yard, and placed a circle of blank paper around him. No writing, no calling. He sat inside that circle, holding the old bell, but did not ring it. He whispered, "If you want a name, tell me why." The wind rose. One blank sheet in front of him flipped over. A scribbled line appeared, as if written in dew. "Because no one remembers, so we have to remember ourselves. If we lose our names, we'll truly disappear. Do you understand?" Nam's hands trembled, but he tried to stay calm. "But if you only exist to remember, then you'll never get to live." There was no answer, only the sound of small, dry footsteps on the cement yard. Nam looked around, saw no one. But in his heart, he felt like someone was standing right behind him. Nam began keeping a dream journal. Every morning when he woke, he wrote down each name, each face, each story he heard while sleeping. Even though he never daydreamed, never thought of anything before bed. On the third night, he dreamed of a little girl standing in the middle of a smoldering charcoal stove. Her white dress darkened by smoke. The girl stood still, eyes wide, speaking like reciting, "My name is DM2. My mom wrote my name on the pregnancy pillow. But then, she ended it. I was never born, but my name still lies in the pillow." Nam asked, "Was your mother real?" The girl went quiet, then whispered, "No, she was a woman who dreamed of being pregnant. Just a dream, but my name was real. Because she believed it." On the fifth night, Nam saw a little boy sitting in an old subway car. The boy waved, his eyes a deep black. "You're Nam, aren't you?" Nam nodded. The boy said, "My name is Koi Nguyen. I'm the son of a man who never married. But he often dreamed of having a son, and told his ex-lover about it. His ex believed, so I was remembered. Nam whispered. But you don't have a mother, no father, no body? The boy smiled faintly. But someone called my name. Like you. Every day. Nam woke up exhausted, heavy-headed, heart-tight. He couldn't eat, couldn't speak to anyone. The note on his desk began to stretch longer. One name layered over the next. Total. 89 names. Many of them had never existed in the real world. No birth certificates, no pregnancies, no miscarriage grief. They were just invented memories, but called out enough times. One night, when Nam awoke around 2:58 a.m., he heard whispering in the dark, right in his own room. "Uncle, stop dreaming. We know how to come over now." Nam turned on the light. No one was there, but on the mirror, a new name appeared, written with a water-blurred fingertip. Jia Han. I was born from an unfulfilled promise. He stared. A promise? Nam searched his memory. He once made a promise to a girl in 12th grade, that if they ever got married, he would name their daughter Jia Han. It was never meant seriously. Just words said in jest. He suddenly understood. Even a playful promise could create a form. Nam collapsed onto the floor. His head pounded like hammers. He whispered, I created a world that was never meant to exist. The next morning, Nam went to see Elder Nun Du Thong. He told her everything. The elder sat in silence for a long time, then took out a wooden box. Inside was a faded red talisman. Old, its writing already blurred. This is the anti-delusion charm. Not to ward off spirits, but to stop people from continuing to create illusions. Nam held it and asked, What does that mean? The elder replied softly, No one forbids belief, but if you keep calling out what isn't real, the unreal will find a way to become real at any cost. If you wear this charm, you won't dream of the children anymore. But, Nam looked up. But what? The elder looked deep into his eyes. But you will forget every one of their names. Each child. As if they never existed. Nam clenched the charm in his hand. His lips pressed tight. The same question returned to his mind. If I was the first to ever call their names, do I have the right to forget them? Nam sat beneath the Bodhi tree in the back courtyard of Tuan Pagoda. The sun was setting. In his hand was the anti-delusion charm, folded in a lotus shape. The paper weathered by time, but still warm as if someone had just breathed on it. The elder nun sat across from him, hands folded. Once you wear it, every name you've ever known will disappear. The dreams will stop, your heart will be light, but your compassion will also close. Nam asked quietly, Does that mean I'll no longer be able to feel spirits? She nodded. No more seeing, hearing, remembering, or dreaming about them. No more haunting, but no more chance to make things right either. The wind rustled through the temple roof, leaves falling like unspoken advice. Nam held the charm tightly. He spoke slowly, as if reminding himself, I once thought, as long as I don't hear, don't see, I'll be at peace. But if someone like me gets to forget, then those souls will truly disappear. The elder said nothing, her eyes half closed. Nam looked down at his hands. He remembered Ha Van, the first little girl he named, the one who gently touched his finger and whispered, You are the first to listen to us. He remembered the names from his dreams, Min Tam, Diem2, Koi Nguyen, Nyat En, Jia Han. He remembered the whisper of the child sitting by the window on a rainy night, I don't have a mother. But I have a name. Because of you. He quietly folded the charm and placed it back in the elder's palm. I won't wear it. The elder opened her eyes. Looking straight at him, Nam spoke softly, his gaze no longer trembling. I can't leave them behind. Even if I can't do anything more, I will still remember. Because if no one remembers, they'll disappear as if they never existed. The elder nodded, her voice calm. Memory is the highest price for someone who wants to make amends. Do you accept that? Nam stood up and bowed deeply. I don't need to start over. I just need to move forward, owning the wrong I've done. That evening, Nam left the temple and returned to his old rental room in District 8, where everything began. The room was dusty, the fridge rusted, but on the table, still sat an old bell and a blank sheet of paper left by someone. A clear message appeared, written like by a real hand. You didn't choose to forget. We are grateful. Nam smiled softly. For the first time, he didn't feel the weight. He knew those children were never born, but they had existed in the faith, however mistaken, of someone. And now, They existed in his memory. A man who once called them, just to make money. But now, called them, so they wouldn't be forgotten. One weekend afternoon, as Nam was cleaning up the old room, his phone rang, an unknown number. He hesitated a moment, then answered. "Hello, I'm listening." A woman's voice came through. Gentle yet weary. "Hello, Mr. Nam, I'm Deep. I heard about you from someone at 2 in Pagoda." Nam hesitated. "Yes, how can I help?" I think my house has a womb spirit. I've been to many places, but they all say nothing's there. But I know, it's in my daughter's room." Nam was silent for a few seconds. The woman continued, her voice breaking. "I can't sleep alone. My daughter is only 8, but she keeps saying a name I've never taught her, Mok Duyen." Nam gripped the phone tightly. He'd heard that name before, but not from records or dreams. From a fake exorcism his father once held. A woman had fainted there, mumbling over and over, "Mok Duyen, that's not my child's name." That night, Nam arrived at Deep's villa in Thao Dien. The house was large, but completely dark. Deep led Nam upstairs, speaking softly as they walked. "I don't usually believe in this stuff. But my daughter," she started whispering at night, then drew a child with no face. Nam asked, "Have you ever had a miscarriage? Or even just thought you were pregnant?" Deep shook her head, gave a tired smile. "I've never been pregnant before my daughter. My husband doesn't believe in any of this. But every time he goes on a business trip, the house smells foul, and the balcony plants die." Nam entered the girl's room, a skinny little girl asleep. Facing the wall, the air was unnaturally cold, even with the AC off. He walked to the desk, where several scribbled drawings lay. Among them, one showed a child in a red hood, standing in front of a mirror. The mirror reflected nothing. Below the drawing was a shaky line of handwriting. "Mok Duyen won't leave. She says no one ever called her right." Nam sighed. He whispered, "Mok Duyen isn't the name of a child." Deep trembled. "What do you mean?" Nam turned, eyes sharp. "That name came from a fake exorcism. It's not a spirit. It's something called into being the wrong way. And it can't leave if it keeps being called." Deep clutched her chest. "Then what about my daughter? I never taught her that name." Nam looked at the sleeping girl, her hands curled, lips murmuring like, replying to someone. He said gently, "She's being used in sleep as a recorder. Mok Duyen doesn't need the living to call her. She just needs the living to repeat her name. It's a self-born name, not tied to any spirit." Deep broke into tears. "Please help me, I don't know what else to do." Nam placed a hand on her shoulder to calm her. "I'll try, but you have to promise. Never say that name again. Not even in your mind." She nodded, tears streaming. That night, Nam sat alone outside the girl's room. In his hand was the old bell. He didn't ring it, he simply spoke. "If you're not a spirit, then what are you?" Silence. Then, from inside the room, a little girl's voice echoed, but aged. Like an adult. "Who am I for you to ask? I'm the name you created. I'm the leftover from a lie you never cleaned up." Nam closed his eyes, spoke slowly. "Your name isn't real. Real or not, depends on whether the living remember." Nam gripped the bell, his voice tightening. "If I created you, then I'll be the last one to remember you. Then forget you." The light in the room flickered. Deep's daughter began tossing and turning, then suddenly sat upright. Nam stepped in and placed his hand over the child's forehead. Her eyes were wide open, all whites. Her mouth kept murmuring the same word. "Name, name, 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 name." Nam whispered directly into her ear. "No one's calling your name anymore. There's no one left for you to borrow a name to appear." The girl froze. Sunlight rose. A beam of light streamed through the window, landing on her forehead, and she slumped down, asleep again, soft, as if nothing had happened. Nam wiped his forehead. His shirt was drenched in sweat. He turned. Deep stood at the doorway, hands covering her mouth. Nam looked at her and spoke slowly. "Never name something that never existed. Not even in your mind." Nam lived the days that followed in silence. No one came looking for him. No one asked for offerings. No one cried. No one dreamed of strange names. He thought he'd done it, that the names once haunting his mind had finally let go. But on a rainy night, just as he was about to shut his room's window, a man in a raincoat stood at his door. He said nothing, just handed Nam an old black notebook, the binding covered in green mold. "For you." No one else will accept it. Nam asked quietly. Who sent this? The man stayed silent, then turned and walked away. No umbrella, no backward glance. Nam sat down at his table and opened the notebook. Inside was a long list of names, over 300 entries, all written in the same neat, consistent handwriting. Each line read, name, born, died, called by. Nam flipped to the final page. That page was blank, except for one single line, written in faded red ink, as if just recently added. Name, Nam, born, unknown, died, unconfirmed, called by, himself. He froze. The wind chime outside the door rang out long and loud. Even though there was no wind, Nam stood and looked into the mirror. There was no reflection. He looked back at the table. The notebook had closed. The anti-delusion charm, the one given to him by the elder, lay neatly beside it. As if someone had placed it back. Nam gasped for breath, gripping the table until his knuckles turned white. His eyes welled up but wouldn't let the tears fall. He whispered, maybe I'm just another name, born from a mistake no one ever owned. Children's laughter echoed behind him. So many voices, like echoes of 1,000 names without a place to return. One voice, bright, but older than all the rest, filled the room. You think you're making amends, but you're only remembering every wrong that can't be fixed. You're the only one who still remembers us, so we'll remember you too. Nam didn't turn around. He looked up toward the ceiling, as if searching for light one last time. There was nothing but darkness spreading like ink. On the floor, names began to appear, one by one, written in black ink. DM2, Khoi Nguyen, Ha Van, Nyat En, Jia Han, Nam. His name lay in the center. The tiny room filled with names. The bell in his hand rang, even though he hadn't touched it. All the lights went out. The phone screen lit up, automatically began recording. No voices, only the soft chant of a child, repeating the same name over and over. Nam, 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 Nam. The screen went dark. The room was empty. On the wall, in smeared red ink, written by hand, thank you for calling our names. Now we will call yours.